Yo, we back at it. We live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another extraordinary episode of the Extraordinary Exchange podcast with your guy here, Mr. Nate Bennett. Got my dude Case. What's good, Case?
Oh man, another day, another dollar, my brother.
Another day, another dollar, man.
Just happy to be here like usual. We got a special guest in the building. Pre-show, learned a lot of information about this brother, man, and he got some good stuff going on. Mtokufa.
There it is.
You know, as it shows under your title, you're the founder of Gold Black Investments.
Right.
So first and foremost, welcome to the show. We got a lot to talk about. But first and foremost, if you could kind of give an introduction of who you are.
Sure. So Mtokufa Ngwenya is my name. I was born in Southern Africa. My father is Southern African. Everybody on my father's side is from South Africa, Zimbabwe, etc. My mother, she's from Guyana, South America, so two different sides of the world. And, I was born on the continent, came to the States, did my education. I'm one of 7 kids, so I'm number 5. So 5 straight boys, 2 girls. And like any other family, like it's, got a lot of schisms, got a lot of love, got a lot of wild things, but we are truly products of who we are. And it's not until like I started to get to this age that I realized that our parents didn't have it all together, and they probably still don't. So it's like I'm extending so much grace to my parents, right? So my father's deceased, my mother's still alive, kicking, pushing, and currently, I am in the real estate development world, but I tell people my passion is always going to be entrepreneurship, and not even for the reason that I want to be flexing and I want to be rich or whatever it may be. I just feel like I have a commodity, a product, something to give to the world that if I don't do it, that so many people will lose out on it. So I've had this entrepreneurial bug since, raking leaves as a 10-year-old. Like I was hustling, cutting grass. I had like 25 people in the summer that I would be cutting their grass, raking their leaves, plowing their snow, doing what I had to do. And it's just the love for the hustle, man. So, that's a little bit about me. I'm happy to share anything more. High school here, went to University of Maryland, currently pursuing my MBA. Like I'm just we all know that there are a few things that can't be taken away from you. Number 1 is your legacy. Number 2 are the books that you read, the education that you get, whether it's in a school, outside of a school, and also the love that you just have for humanity. That just can't be taken away from you. And that's, I'm always just pouring into other people and pouring into myself, because yourself is the biggest and greatest investment you can ever make. At least that's what I think. I could be wrong, but I would love to hear what y'all think.
You're not off at all. So, us being the Extraordinary Investment Group,
Mm-hmm.
The premise is the most important investment is you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're the vessel you're the vessel that's going to grow. You're the vessel that's going to make money. You're the vessel that's going to network. You're the vessel that's going to do that. And if we're not watering our roots, you know what I mean, then. And that's with investing in yourself ain't a dollar. It's education, right? It's
Absolutely.
Foundation.
Absolutely.
And with that investment, when you invest into yourself, you grow exponentially, and then that allows you to help others grow exponentially. So yeah, I'm 1,000% with you in regards to your biggest investment that you will ever make is not a monetary investment. It's an investment itself.
Yeah. No, I agree. 100%.
Yeah, I love the analogies that are happening right now, and you don't even know a Case. You talk about watering roots, and that's how I connected with this brother online during the pandemic. Connected over plants and kicks, of all things, right? I became a plant dad, I guess, during the pandemic a little bit. And shout out to Shea from episode 16, if you haven't watched that.
What up, Shea?
That was a dope episode we had with her. but she had posted you on her stories. You know, shout out to the homie doing his thing and in the plant world and whatnot. And fresh kicks with this dope background. And I was like, yeah, this like homie fly. You know what I'm saying? So I checked out your page, and then you just kept coming up, and you happened to go on live, and you know, we connected virtually. That just blossomed into a dope relationship. Met face to face several times. Shout out to Mom Dukes, who I think put that battery in your back when it came to entrepreneurship and the love for plants. So kind of take us back to that and how she kind of developed that entrepreneur in you, because she's got an amazing space out there in Maryland, bro.
Yeah, man. So that's a good question. You know, both of my parents grew up on farms, right? So I tell people all the time, I didn't grow up rich. I also didn't grow up poor, right? And maybe I don't think I was poor because I had food every night, and you know, the lights were on every night and the water was on. So but I have uncles, grandparents, etc., who are proper farmers, and you know, anything from like watermelons to sugarcane to maize, like my family has grown. So you know, even in our house when we were in Zambia, it was literally like a solarium, like hundreds of plants. And my mother's favorite plant is an African violet, which is actually a particularly hard plant to keep alive. And you know, I used to just see her doing her thing, and I never really I was always the one that was tasked with like watering the plants, and I would just follow the instructions. You know, as a kid, it's a chore. You're not trying to do that. You're like, this is a bull. I'm not trying to do that. But you just, after 15 years of doing it, you get real good at it, right? And then during the pandemic, I remember at the top of the pandemic, I remember I was like, yo, how do I purify my home? Right. And, you know, I grabbed the plant from my mom, and I instantly started seeing like my sinuses started to clear up. Then I bought something from Costco. I found like black florists. I found anything that was black with plants. I was finding it, and I was just buying, and then I started propagating. And I remember I turned around, I was like, damn, there's like 60 plants in here. And then I remember I just started posting about it, not trying to get any traction. And then it was like, what was it? WUSA Channel 9. As you would say, shout out to Meg the woman. Meg hit me up, and she did a whole interview, like a 2, 3, 4 minute segment. And it was just really dope to see something that I just was having a good time with was resonating with so many people. And it was really therapeutic. So a lot of brothers, and by brothers I mean black men, reached out to me because they were like, you don't strike me as what I would think a plant dad would be. You're into J's, you know, you're working out, you're fly. Because I would be like propagating my plants on live, and like my Jordans or whatever it may be. And like I wasn't wearing like a lumberjack suit, I wasn't all dirty and all that kind of stuff. But I was just truly being who I am, which is just authentic. It was just an authentic person. And that's when that's when I started to realize that authenticity really wins. And to like take you back to like what we were talking about, you know, for some of my first gigs were really cutting grass and shoveling snow, but being the best at it so that I could make sure that I get a repeat customer. Because we all know we got those knucklehead teenagers. You give them $25, $30, they still got ice laying down. You know, I would be putting down salt, making sure that you know the old people ain't busting their butts. And you know, like I remember the very first business that I, you know, had an LLC under was an event management space. You know, I was doing banquets. I was doing fashion shows. I did University of Maryland's fashion show, homecoming fashion show, but it was a hair show. You've never seen, maybe you've seen a hair show, but like I had hairstylists, makeup artists. I did it at Georgetown University. So for like 3 or 4 years, I was the guy that was running a lot of not the parties per se, but I was the guy running the shows leading up to to homecoming weekend. So, you know, and everything that I did, my mother supported me. And I'll tell y'all this, I've never told anybody this story, but I remember that Georgetown fashion show, somehow I didn't budget correctly, and I was short like $400 for the vendor fees, like after everybody was gone. And I remember I called my mom. I was like, "Yo, I'm in a tight space," and she was like, "Here you go." But this is before. Luckily, this was, she and I have the same bank, so she was able to like transfer the money real quick, and I was able to go to the ATM and then pay somebody, so I ain't get my head bust. This is DC in what, 2006,
Oh, yeah,
2007.
you was gonna get got. We wouldn't have had this interview today. You'd have been on the Washington Post.
Yeah, I think did Cameron get got around that time down there by Howard? I would have
Yeah,
said
that was before that. But yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was while we were that was like between 2000 2004. That
Mhm.
and that remember Little Flip. Y'all probably don't remember the Little Flip. He got his
He
they
got
stole
got.
his chain.
yeah.
Yeah.
I going on the DMV right
Yeah.
now.
So those are good times, man. But so yeah, so to answer your question, the entrepreneurial bug has always been there because my mother is a caterer. She's a baker. She plants, but she's also a professional, and she never shied away from her skills. And a lot of people think that you a sucker if you have a 9 to 5. Like, nah. Like I literally treat like my boy said this to me last year, and I've told everybody this now. I treat my 9 to 5 as a bank. It funds everything else that I want to do. Like I'm passionate about my entrepreneurial life. But I'm not necessarily looking for passion in my 9 to 5 because it's a bank. It's a system for me to get to where I want to be. It's a system for me to live the lifestyle that I want, and it's a system for me to travel, and so that I can help my family. It's really it. Remember all back in the day when we were 15, 20, oh, I want to be a doctor so I can save somebody's life. Like, all right, cool, that's fine. You can still do that. But like, what happens if you lose your license? Like, you got to have other skills, right? And I was just having this conversation with my lady today about this woman that I know that went to med school, passed, didn't couldn't complete her boards, and I think after like 2 or 3 times, if you don't pass your boards, you just like essentially can't do it anymore. Then she went to law school, and luckily, I mean, good for her, she was able to get her, what is it called? The bar, pass the bar. But it's like you invest 4 years, no one thinks about going to med school and then not passing your boards. You can fail out of med school, but like not completing med school, then like it's just like you always got to learn how to pivot, man. Like you just never know what this world's gonna bring you, bro. So I say all that to say, like, I always have a couple of things cooking so that I can keep myself afloat.
Yeah, just doing research and trying to figure out what we were going to focus on and talk about here wasn't easy. Like Case was like, "Yeah, so what does homie do?" You got so many different buckets that you put into. But again, the main thing is your passion for humanity is obvious. And you pour into yourself, like that personal development and you showing up as the best version of yourself at all times. It's definitely something I could say that's been consistent over the last few years I've known you. So salute, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to touch on to something real quick. You talked about the entrepreneurial spirit as a young person, and how that kind of, and then how you use that entrepreneurial spirit. Your job is the way to fund your lifestyle. Can you talk a little bit more in depth about using your job, using the benefits of your job to benefit, what you want to do outside of those business?
Sure. So, I'll give you a snapshot of like the last 10 years, right? So let's say 2014 to now. 2014, I was a campaign manager for a citywide election in DC, right? DC now has, I think they're saying 1 million people, 900,000 people, however many. So running a citywide election 10 years ago, like, it gave me the ability to manage hundreds of people at one time, manage hundreds of thousands of dollars at one time. And then I transitioned, he lost, right? We lost that election. Then I transitioned into Homeland Security. Then I transitioned into the same individual, the guy whose campaign I ran. He ended up winning the second go around, and then I became his chief of staff, right? So I was his first employee. And then after that, I'm now in real estate development. But everything about those 4 jobs was relationship building, because the people that I met 10 years ago are my clients now, with my plants, with my travel things, with whatever it is that I'm doing, because I was a stand-up dude 10 years ago. And they knew that the customer service, the rapport that we built, everything is about being authentic. So I use the same skills professionally and I just put them into my business, right? So a lot of times, if you are trying to raise money, if you're trying to crowdsource, if you're trying to crowd fund, a lot of times we see things like Kickstarters or GoFundMe's or whatever it may be, and we just pass it by. But I agree to this podcast because Nate has poured into me. He and I have had a rapport. If Nate was some random person that just messaged me on IG like, yo, you want to come on my podcast? I'd be like, I'm good. No, because there's no, and it's not even transactional, but it's just like, there's no reciprocity. So for me, it's like, it doesn't always have to be a financial contribution. Sometimes it's just like love, right? Sometimes it's just like respect, mutual respect. And that's what I learned along the way. So the same guy 10 years ago, I ran his campaign. He was also my boss, you know what I mean? But prior to that, he and I ran a blog together. So we like were literally in the trenches together, from like $0 to doing, I don't want to say running DC, but we were in a good space where he is now, one of the council members of Washington, DC, and your purview is just completely different. So even the content I was consuming, the content I was putting out was very different based on the jobs that I have. So like now I'm no longer in the government, so I'm a little bit more free to say what I want, but I'm still gonna be meticulous, because it's really hard to ask people to invest into your business financially if you're not putting if they're not seeing you put any of your own money into it either. You know what I mean? Because if y'all had asked me, "Oh, come on my podcast, but can you pay for the airtime? Can you book the studio time?" People won't take you seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a lot of times I tell people around me, like, if something happened to you at that job, that chair is gonna be warm before they put you in the ground.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and then also if you're working a 9 to 5, a corporate job, and you work your ass off, they gonna give you OPW. They gonna give you other people's work because they know your work ethic. You know what I mean? And it's like, how do as lemmings, as the worker bees, the corporations are supposed to play you because they making millions off of your pennies that they pay you. So it's how do you reverse engineer that and make it work for you, right? Like your job gives you tuition reimbursement, you take advantage of it, right? Your job gives you free therapy sessions, you take advantage of it. Whatever. And I tell people this all the time. Well, I don't use my benefits at work. I don't be going to the doctor. I don't feel sick. You pay for those things.
Pay for it.
That come out of your pocket every 2 weeks, every time you get paid. So what are you not using these benefits for to further yourself, where you're not an employee number, right? That your employee number is funding your lifestyle. And then smart decisions on the back end, where you work 10 years, if you work 10 years straight, you done saved up some 401k, you done saved up some savings, you done network, you done learned a few things, and you should be dangerous.
Yeah, definitely. And we know a lot of people are tied to that thing that's below their name on a business card. A lot of people are tied to their job title. You know what I mean? So, and I say this not tongue in cheek, but just as a real life example. I was chief of staff for 5 years, and I probably talk more about it now than when I was actually chief of staff, because people would say, "Oh, this is chief of staff. He's the chief of staff to, you know, this council member," and I would always say, "But I'm Mtokufa first. You know,
Right.
like I bust my butt first, right?" And a lot of people are just so confused when you know, people look at your job title, in my opinion, based on how much respect that they should give you. So Casey is the CEO of Apple. We're gonna give him this much respect. Nate is the head janitor at X, Y, or Z. He all right, but we just don't know what's happening, man. And like to me, that it always goes back to like, what kind of person are these are you dealing with? Because Casey could be the CEO of Apple, but be an absolute trash individual, you know. And is that who we really want to be fooling with? But I digress. I digress.
That's at the beginning though. Like
Yeah.
that title supersedes who you are as a person until we find out who you are as a person. I've learned so much in the military. We talk about rank and ranking systems. I learned so much from being the general's driver of a hospital back when I was in Fort Lewis. I was just a specialist, and he was like the head of the entire hospital. But he was so cool and down to earth. Like prior to meeting him, I always looked at these ranks as, oh, I got to be a certain, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like they human, they bleed just like I bleed. And he kind of relaxed me the first day. Mind you, this older 50-year-old white dude was like, hey, Specialist Bennett, what's your name? I was like, Nate. He's like, oh, like Nate Dogg? I was like, man, I'm a teenager. I'm like, what you even know about Nate Dogg, right? He was like, all right, like maintain your military decorum when we out and about, but in the office, you can call me Nate Dogg. Can you handle that? I was like, yeah. And this was day one, like first meeting. I was like, all right, cool. Like, and just having that mutual respect and rapport with him. But back to something we were talking about, I don't think, and I talk about the military a lot because I served 6 years in the Army, but the Army is a business before anything. So they're going to get everything they can out of you. But I don't think people do the due diligence and understand that they can get a lot out. Like we always hear and talk about, military benefits and all that, but a lot of the benefits they're not just going to willingly give you in your hand. You got to do your due diligence and your research.
Yeah.
And find these things. So the same way that they beating on you as an employee, you do the same thing. And from even before that, I don't think a lot of people, we go to work to pay our bills, right? There is value beyond just that paycheck in every single position that you sit in, whether it's employee at McDonald's to being a president of the United States. Everything in between, there's valuable nuggets that you can learn from those experiences that'll help you from when you were cutting grass and when you were running campaigns, like all that, being that stand-up dude. And that's why, I mean, you and I have this rapport, but that's why E.I.G is where it's at now, because we've been stand-up dudes. And when we started launching this, every single person we asked something for. Hey, we throwing this event. Can you DJ for us? Hey, we need a photographer for this. Hey, we need to print out flyers. You can do it. I could do it. What you mean? Like we family.
Yeah.
So that our reputation has preceded us and allowed us to do some amazing things. But that's because, not to toot our own horn. That's because we just regular guys that want to quote Shah from last episode, be world changers.
Yeah. And it goes back to it's relationships, man. And if you guys weren't stand-up folks and you weren't nurturing those relationships that you had with all of these people, because you never know who can do what. Like right now, I'm looking for somebody who can do 3D printing, right? I have a pretty big job before I go and do like an RFP or do some Google searching. I'm trying to crowdsource. Like I always look for people within my circle to do things. So if you may know somebody, so I'll always put something on social media. I was looking for a grant writer. I was looking for a Black woman grant writer. I found one. Right. So instead of me searching on Google and doing something cold, I'd rather Casey say, oh, I know this person that does X, Y, and Z. Like, that's just how, I'm all about expanding resources like that, definitely.
But it's never even been tit for tat though. Like we
Exactly.
genuinely built a dope relationship off of
Mhm.
plants and kicks, and then finding out we're
Oh, yeah.
got mutual friends and associates in
Mhm.
circles. But it was never okay, this dude. I didn't even know half that stuff you just talked about. You know what I'm saying? That's prior to me knowing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it makes sense though. Knowing getting to know you over the last few years and knowing who you are, it makes sense. So so let's talk about this, man. Let's talk about Gold Black.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's your baby. This is the raw shea butter
Yeah.
that I came up on.
Yeah.
But I know Gold Black was in different spaces in the fashion space. I know that it's expanded to Mtokufa Fest, doing events, you know, exposing the continent in an amazing light, and
Yeah.
bringing some of those resources here to the States. And yeah,
Right.
so talk about Gold Black, man. This is
Spin that around. I'm trying to see if you have the OG bottle. Yeah,
Oh,
you have the
I have
OG.
both.
Yeah.
I have both. I got the OG
Okay.
joint.
Okay. You have the OG
From
bottle.
day one. I had the OG bottle,
Yeah.
and I got the new joint. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So Gold Black, Gold Black started literally in the pandemic. Like that's actually how I was, selling the plants. Slanging plants is what I used to say, right? Plant daddy, whatever you want to call it. It was a whole different logo, but as I was telling y'all earlier, my pivot game is strong, right? So I realized that for me to expand, or for Gold Black to, everybody wanted to buy from me. They wanted to buy my plant. So that means not like I could ship plants, but if somebody ordered 50 plants, if 50 people ordered 50 plants, I can't be at 50 places at one time, nor did I want like 50 people in my space at one time. So I started to think through, how can I use this same clientele and give them something different? So at that time, I went back. I was traveling to Zambia and South Africa a ton between 2020 and 2022. And then I realized, like, Black folks love African products. White folks love African products. The world loves African products. So I remember I was in Ghana and I literally tried raw shea butter, not that yellow stuff in that plastic can that you get from the beauty store for $5. Not that. Like the joint literally cut off the trees. I've seen it. I went to the farms. I saw women, and I started to realize that they were being exploited, right? So a lot of these companies exploit farmers because they pay them pennies on the dollar. So I created a relationship with a Black owned farm where I literally saw how it was made, and then I got it bottled. I got it from Ghana, bottled it in Zambia, and I really started shipping it to the States. Um, and I think we sold, I can't remember the exact amount, but we sold out of all of our product like in 4 months, 5 months. And as I was doing that, we did kimonos, African inspired kimonos that were unisex. We also did travel bags. But things were slow because supply chain, and then trying to ship from the continent to the US is tough if you don't have, an import export pipeline or something that's really big. Um, so I started doing a lot of travel in Southern Africa, and I realized that there was a gap. If I ask you to, or if I was walking down the street and I asked people to name 5 African countries, it would normally be Nigeria, Ghana, and y'all tell me if I'm right or wrong. Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Egypt, and maybe a little razzle dazzle, Kenya.
Nigeria.
What'd you say?
Kenya or Nigeria?
Yeah,
Nigeria,
right.
yeah.
So it's like, so everyone knows South Africa because South Africa is very developed. It's like a little Europe, right? But I realized that there was a gap because Black people, white people, whoever from the West, Americans, don't necessarily go to Africa. They prefer to go to the Caribbean. They prefer to go to south of France. But Tanzania has some of the best beaches in the world. Seychelles beaches are like epic, but a lot of it was an education gap because the continent is still looked at as a dark continent, right? So I started speaking to people and I realized that Gold Black could really like our tagline is sharing Africa's treasures with the world. And while I was on travel, I would be posting from South Africa, from Ghana, from Zambia, from Zimbabwe, from Tanzania, from Ethiopia, and people were like, "Yo, are you in Europe? Are you in Asia?" And I'm like, "Nah," because at first I would just post. In my mind, like because I've been doing these things my whole life, it was second nature. But I realized like the power of at that time it was Instagram and Facebook. It really started to connect the world, and like people started saying, "Yo, the next time you go, let me come with you." And so many people have come with me on trips or visited me while I was out there that I just decided to work with the national governments of Zambia and South Africa specifically. Now we're engaging with Zimbabwe to bring people to the continent. And that was a blast, So to answer your question, like the evolution from plants to people, like that's been the business, right? The concept isn't the same. We're giving a service, we're giving customer service, we're giving a product, but it's changed from something physical to something experiential. Like I can't ever take that away from you that you put your feet on the African soil, African continent. Your plant can die, but your memories will be there, for as long as your brain is functioning. So it's now like experiential things. Like I'm hitting senses that are different. Like I'm not necessarily trying to sell you a Gucci belt or Versace watch. Like I'm selling you like gold plated memories, platinum painted memories. So like that's what we're offering now.
We're talking about the talk about the continent of Africa and the different different things that you put on, and Nate mentioned Mtokufa Fest. Tell the people about Mtokufa Fest.
So Mtokufa Fest is an event. It really started around the same time when I was telling you guys 2015, with that when we lost that election. It was an event where we had potential judges, people from different walks of life. It was a space where people could truly connect, right, in an authentic way. Because we all go to networking events and it's like, oh my God, like I don't want to talk to Nate. He looks important. I don't want to talk to Casey. He doesn't look like he wants to talk to me. Like I created this space where everybody knew, like you were there to have a good time, and we didn't care what you did. We just partied, and it was literally, I think it had to be 60, 70 people, black tuxes, all the women wearing ball gowns, and we all know like our people love a dress up situation. So it was a Tuesday, and remember that song, The Club Going Up. It was that era, right?
Yeah.
So I remember folks are like, I think it was a couple of days before Christmas, and people were like, "Yo, this one is gonna flop," and I was like, "If it flops, it flops." But I think it was the 23rd, so the day before Christmas Eve, and my house was packed. DJ experience. We had food. Food was catered. We had coat men, coat women, hanging up everything. So like, we just created this thing, and like every year since, I did something similar, and I started shifting it around to my birthday. But one of my fraternity brothers was like, "Yo, you should call your joint Mtokufa Fest," because my birthday's in October, so we all know Oktoberfest. And he was like, because every time you do something, it's really like a melding or an amalgamation of things. So I took it over to the continent in 2021. I had members of the Zambian presidential cabinet at my event. I had some of the dopest, biggest social media influencers. And then fast forwarded to 2023. Now not only has it come from Washington, D.C., it was in Zambia 2021, 2022, we were a little quiet. But 2023, we were Zambia and Zimbabwe. We got a partnership with the government. We got partnerships with the local governments. We had the deputy U.S. ambassador pop up to my event. So it's like people started to see the credence, right? We had a full page article in the national newspaper. I was on like a late night talk show. So think of like Jay Leno, right? The Jay Leno show, but in Zambia. So I was able to do some really dope things by bringing people to the continent instead of, because everybody knows the continent, everyone takes from the continent and gives to Europe, gives to the States. It's like now I'm trying to bring all those resources back. And people have loved it, man. People have really, really loved it. And because again, it's clean, it's authentic, it's not a turn up, it's an experience. And what Mtokufa is not on the continent. We're not taking you to show you this is where Black people were treated as slaves. This is where Black people were beaten up. Like, we're showing you the beauty that the continent really is. Like, I'm not taking you to the hoods because I don't go to the hoods in my own neighborhoods when I live in the States, right? So you're really getting an experience of like the things me and my family would do. And people have like a blast. So this year, the vice president of the United States, she was in Zambia. I hung out with her team, and I was able to share some of the things that I would do, right? Because normally when you are traveling with people at that level, you have this strict itinerary. So, it's just like me going to North Carolina, Casey, and doing something that I'm not going to see in TripAdvisor. Like, you're going to show me a part of North Carolina, a part of Raleigh that the internet won't know. I mean, maybe TikTok can show you a little bit, but you live there, so you know the ins and outs, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's like when people come to DC, what do they go to? They probably go, Black folks love to go to park, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like it's everything is about an authentic feel. And because I tell people all the time, anytime you see things that I post on social media, I have done it with my own dollars or with my own sweat. Like, I'm not like renting a Lambo to show you, this is the life I'm living, and then like putting it away or posting something that doesn't belong to me. That's just not my life, man. I don't do it for the likes, honestly. Yeah.
It's not sustainable either, though.
It's not.
Like that authenticity you keep talking about, that's sustainable. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can put on that front for, a few months, but then when you have that connection, and it's dope because we connected over the internet, but the connection became even deeper when we met face to face. It was like, nah, dude is really about what he's talking about. You looked at me, was like, nah, Nate's really about this life that he talks about, he perceives, and this E.I.G movement we're trying to build. It's real. You know what I'm saying? We're not doing this for life. We're not doing this for like, it's real love for humanity and our people that's tied to what both of us are doing. So I love it.
Yeah. And Nate, I mean, and if you allow me to speak freely, like, you and I have exchanged a couple $1,000s in business, right? Like, off, like, all right, like, if he does me dirty, he does me dirty.
Yeah.
But like, it just never happened because, and I always tell people I used to be the biggest supporter of our people, and by our people I mean entrepreneurs. Like, even if you had a trash product, I would buy it. But now I'm not gonna buy it because it's like, I don't want my house to be filled with things that are not good. So I'd rather just donate or tell you how to improve it. But like, we have to give grace to a lot of our people, but we also have to push our people to do better than the bare minimum.
Yes.
You can't just do the bare minimum, saying I'm spraying something on a t-shirt and saying it's art. Can you give me $50? Like, nah. Like, it still says Hanes on the back. It still says whatever. Like, give me a tag, give me a story, like, give me something, man. Give me something. But yeah.
You were talking about some of the risks that you're taking, having belief. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people telling you, nah, this joint gonna flop. Like we have conversations within the group, like, and it's good to have 12 minds coming together, everyone giving their feedback. But that overarching theme of just belief and knowing like, nah, we gonna do this. Like we believe in what we're doing, believe in the product. Forget if the community is really gonna embrace it. We know that what we're doing is authentic and it's in the right space.
Absolutely.
And then you also talked about, backing it financially. That's the let's get into it, bro. Let's get into it.
Bruh, like
Business runs on that funding sometimes. Talk about some of the ways you've been able to fund these projects, because these are not small tasks. You talked about crowdfunding earlier for the campaign, but when it comes to business, like how are you getting a lot of these off the ground? If you could be transparent with that.
You know what, Nate, and like if whoever's gonna listen to this or looks at this is what I wish more business entrepreneurial podcasts would talk about. Everybody talks about how they're successful. You look at the Earn Your Leisure guys, and I love that podcast, right? But it's like no one talks about the sweat. No one. So for example, to get Mtokufa off the ground, and by off the ground, it means I had to get to the continent. I had to stay in the hotels that I'm recommending. I had to use the transportation that's being requested. I had to eat at the places. I had to do all of the activities. I had to like all of these things, right? So from 2020 to last year, me personally, 2020 to early 2022, $45,000, right? Cash. And I don't know if that's a lot of money or that's a little bit of money, but it's a sizable amount of money, right? And I didn't see any positivity literally until this year, right? Because 2020, so in 2022, we brought in probably a little bit close to that. So like we were barely breaking even, but that's over 2 years. Remember, we didn't do it in 2022. And I still have a staff that I'm paying. And a lot of people don't talk about that because Mtokufa would be nothing without my team. Like my team is everything. Like for a long time, and Nate, you may or may not know this, for a long time, I was trying to like step into the background and just be like the operations person because this is not my strength, right? But I'm learning it. But it's 45 stacks off top, and then I'm now in the place where I can do sponsorships, right? So now that I have the Zambian government, parts of the Zambian government supporting me, a lot of companies are still like, well, a big company won't give you money until another big company gives you money, but you got to get the big company to give you money first.
Only take one.
Yeah. So a lot of things now are like, they're giving us things at cost, right? What is it called? Like an in kind. So, a lot of hotels will give us free rooms. Airlines will give us tickets, which is beneficial. But 2024 next year, we're looking to kick down the door because, with all of the sponsorships and the packages that we have, and trying to identify like how to write a deck. I have a lot of friends who are consultants who work in the money raising game. Luckily, I haven't had to pay them with finances, but it's like really investing phone time, quality time. I don't know how you calculate human capital, but the amount of hours that I spend thinking about Mtokufa and Gold Black investment is it takes up all of my mental space, right? And luckily my 9 to 5 work doesn't suffer, but my team can only be as excited as I am, but I can't expect them to see all of the blind spots that I see because I'm thinking about Mtokufa all day long. You guys are thinking about your podcast and about your investment group all day long. Um, so to answer your question, at least 45 stacks. If I were to go back and like comb through the numbers, it's probably like from 2020 to now. If I would, it's probably close to like 80, 90. But luckily, that's with like overhead costs, taxes, all of that kind of stuff. And it's an operation, right? And everybody, so many people on social media are saying that they're entrepreneurs, that they're 6 figures, 7 figures, and I'm just like, the numbers don't say that.
Sounds good.
Right.
Like the statistics from the Census Bureau, from the IRS, from whoever is tracking this, it just doesn't add up. Like you just can't be, because there are only but so many millionaires, and we all know there's a smaller percentage of them that are people that look like me and you. So everybody on social media with the blue tick can't be a millionaire. Or if they are, maybe they're hustling, and good for them, right? But I do all my stuff above board. I'm the only person with my first and last name in the world. Like, I've never met anybody with my first name. There are a ton of people with my last name, but two of them together. I don't want my black face on a mugshot. I don't want to be on Shade Room. I don't want to be on any of those podcasts saying this dude was a fraud. Like,
it was a fraud. And that's real. That's real.
Yeah. Like I don't do things for the clout,
That's real.
And I think a lot of us get, and I was telling somebody this the other day, many of us don't have friends to say, hey bro, maybe you should hang it up. Like, maybe you shouldn't be trying to be a rapper at 65, right? But like for me, Mtokufa is really filling a gap, feeding a gap, both words, because it's like there's never going to be the whole world that sees Southern Africa. There's never going to be like enough people. There's so much space. There's so much space. There's so much land, and we're working on collaborations with. I can't even speak about them right now, but some of the big African-based companies that you're hearing that are doing festivals, etc. Like, we're partnering up with them in 2025, 2026. So we're forecasting, we're pushing ahead, but we just need to make sure that we have our base and that we understand our clientele right now. Like, we're still trying to understand our clientele, because they're different. They're very different.
And that was one of the questions that I was going to kind of lead into, is like clientele. Who is the clients? Who is your prime clientele? Who is your key clientele for both of your businesses, for Gold Black, for Mtokufa?
So it's so interesting. For the shea butter, when we had the shea butter and our accessories, it was primarily women, 21 years old to about, I would say, 55. That was my base. That was my base, because those women would have mothers, fathers, sisters, aunties, nephews, kids who needed or who could benefit from shea butter. A lot of men don't think that they should be taking care of their skin for whatever reason. Same thing with the kimonos. Women are by far, in my opinion, at least from my businesses that I've ever run, have been the largest contributors, largest proponents, are the reasons that my business has survived. Like, I had a couple of clients that would buy 20 shea butters at one time, 50, because they're like, oh, these are good Christmas gifts, so let me buy them in advance. For Mtokufa, it's a little bit different. I would say it's, again, women who are 20, at least 28, 29 to about mid 70s. And these are women primarily again. So we're getting more men this year, but these are men who are high income earners. And by high, I mean 95 grand plus. And people may say in the comments that's not high, but the average household income is what, $45,000 in the state. So they're making at least twice the amount. and these are single individuals. So usually single men, single women, 27, 28 to about 70, 75. Number one, they have the finances to drop and drop several $1,000s. If I can say the price, so it's like, so this year, this next year, the price is $7,500. So they have disposable income. They have leave that they can take 10 days off of work, or they have some sort of work from home scenario. So yeah, so these are people who may or may not need a year to plan out a trip, but they know they have the flexibility and the finances and the desire. You have to have the desire, right? Because we all know there are tons of people who have bread, but you have to have a passport to leave the country. You have to not be maybe afraid of flying to leave the country. Like, I know a lot of people who have never left DC. Well, maybe not DC, who have never left Maryland.
The DMV,
Yeah, not like Maryland. I know a guy that's never been to DC. Like, dog, I was in Foot Locker, and this dude, you know what? Maybe he did go to DC, but he had never been to Ocean City. He had never been to Sandy Point. He had never been to Miami. He had never been. He said he had never been to a beach, and I'm like, dog, they got beaches in Maryland. I say all that to say, like, there's opportunity. So my clientele has always been women, but I want to see more men traveling, either by themselves or with their partners. I don't want to say that I'm not looking for a certain type of clientele, but like, there's that group of, what do they call themselves? The passport bros. That's not what my trip is about.
yeah.
That's not what my trip is about. So yeah.
Hey man, passport bros can't go to Mtokufa Fest, man. Keep y'all asses in the States, bro. Keep y'all asses in the States, bro. Ain't no passport bros at Mtokufa Fest. Man.
Everything ain't for everybody, man. So
right, man. Y'all go to Mocha Fest. Y'all don't go to Mtokufa Fest. Y'all do that. Hey, but winding up and winding down, man. What information, what tools? Because you are what I call a serial entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
right? And many, like we talked about, hustle. And hustlers are serial entrepreneurs. Like, what advice, other than do your work on the up and up so Uncle Sam don't mess with you, and the folks won't try to put you in the bin. What advice do you have for young aspiring entrepreneurs to get started, get motivated, stay motivated? Like, what would your information be, or your advice be?
Yeah. Pick something that you're good at. Pick something that you enjoy doing and perfect it. Be the best at it. It sounds so simple, but I know that Nate can start a Nate Fest tomorrow and follow my blueprint, but it won't be the same, right? So it's because he hasn't put in the work. Even if Nate is behind me by 10 years, or has more than 10 years, it's just going to be different. So you really have to figure out, like, what you're good at, enjoy doing that, and are you serving your purpose, right? Or are you serving yourself? Because a lot of people try to get into business when they're broke, and that's when you end up tripping over yourself. You get into business because you don't have anything else. So if you're hungry and you're broke while you're doing it, you gotta be so honest, because as Casey said, like, Uncle Sam and whoever is going to be looking for you, because the moment you start flashing a couple of dollars, like, everybody's looking at you. So the advice is really to just perfect your craft, and that really just takes time. And just like we were talking about earlier, you have to feed your brain, feed your heart, and it's about reading. So many of us don't read. Like, I learned about Mtokufa Fest, or I perfected Mtokufa Fest, because I was reading the reports from the Zambian tourism company. The Zambian tourism ministry, the South African ministry. I'm reading things about airlines. I'm looking at social media, and I'm seeing what people are posting about Zambia, South Africa. And I'm like, that's not even true. It's not accurate. So it's like debunking a lot of myths. So if you're able to show people the truth as to whatever you are perfecting, that's what they want to see. Like, people are always consistently learning from something on social media. So find out what you like to do, and then just be really good at it. Be the best at it.
I love that answer because 25-year-old Nate wouldn't have received that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the X's and O's, the how to's, like I wanted it laid out on the platter for me.
Mm-hmm.
When there's so much value in what you just said that people don't even realize. Like that there's no shortcut to it. Just
No.
Take it from
something that you good at and work your ass off. Like we hear Kobe talk about all the time now, recipes to Kobe, but he
R.I.P.
talked
Yeah.
about how I seen an interview he did where he talked about, most people are doing, 2-a-days. You get up maybe 10 to 12, you do your workout, take a couple hours off, and then from 6 to 8, you do an evening workout, and that's it. But what happens when I'm getting up at 4 and I'm working out from 5 to 7, take a break, then from 9 to 12 or from 9 to 11, I'm doing it again, have lunch, spend time with the family. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting 4 workouts a day. So over time, that compounded, I don't care what you're doing in your summer workouts, I'm gonna be better than you. You know what I'm saying? So putting in that work, you can't skip over that. You can't skip over, the film time that you're studying. Like just stick to it and do it and be the best at it that you can possibly be, man. It's that simple, y'all.
And the key is, again, if, like you said, the 25-year-old Nate, you wanted somebody to hand it to you on a platter. They hand it to you on a platter. Somebody they hand you a platter full of shit. Somebody knocked the platter down, everything on the ground, right? But you the platter, right? And they can't take they can't take your foundation. They can't take what you know. That's why I'm saying that, like, our ancestors always told us the lack of them wanting to teach our ancestors and teach them how to read and write is because there's a power in knowledge. There's a power in
absolutely
having, and where nobody can tell you. You know what I'm saying? Like my homeboy just walked in here. We always talk about boxing all the time, right? He can talk about boxing because he's been in the ring, as opposed to me. I can only talk about boxing from the aspect of offending. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So if somebody talked to me about boxing, me and him having a conversation, he say, but when you hit him with that 1-2 and then you hit him to the body, like it's something that happens to his body. It's something that happens to him, and I'm like, well, see, I didn't think about it. I wouldn't have known that. You know what I'm saying? So it's something that they can't take from you.
Absolutely.
And that's the power of that knowledge that we continuously talk about in all these different podcasts is arm yourself, put the stuff in your toolbox, because the only thing that they can't take it from you once you know it. It's like riding a bike. You know how to ride a bike. You know how to ride a bike 50 years. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
But it's going to be the same thing. Like I'm a video editor by nature, right? The programs may change.
Yeah.
But the techniques and the theories don't.
Yep.
And so you still have all that where all this technology could be new, but it still works the old way. Right? And so that's what we have to do, and we have to continue to grow our people and educate our people and give our people the opportunities to learn and grow, instead of always trying to say, hey, and this is how social media gets us, right? Hey, make this $10,000. Just pay me $19.99, and you make this $10,000. Everybody want the platter,
right?
But then you get the platter, and you do all that, and then you were like, man, I'll keep losing all this money doing these stock investments. But that's not what he was showing me, because you didn't have the wherewithal to take that information, and we everybody's victim to it, right?
Yeah,
we all short at times, but we have to be cognizant and know, like, the game that we're playing. We have to play the long game. That people, we have to continuously play the long game.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
I appreciate that. That's real. And there's something to be said about experience. And then also, experience will teach you, if it's not working, pivot.
Yep.
What did Albert Einstein say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over. And expecting something different. Like you got to be able to adjust. And that's what I was telling y'all earlier. Like, the shea butter was working, the kimonos were working, but they weren't generating what I needed it to. So I had to figure out a better way. So yeah. So anyway, those are my points, man. Those are
my man said my pivot game is strong. You
points.
gotta be flexible, man. You gotta my man say be water.
Yeah.
Flexible.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee.
All right, man. So as we wind this thing down, man, tell the good people of society where they can find you. They can find more information about the Gold Black Investments. Find more information about Mtokufa Fest. And all the great, awesome things that you got going on.
Definitely. My name is the easiest name to probably Google. You just Google my name, or you Google. So go to goldblackgroup.com. One word, no hyphens, or just Google my name. You'll see it. I'm on IG at Mtokufa. I think I'm on TikTok at Mtokufa. Same thing with Twitter. Like, you look up my name, you'll find everything that you need, and that's the beautiful thing about having a name like mine. There's just not a lot of people with it.
That's real.
Yeah, everybody listening, that's spelled Mtokufa. Mtokufa.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that, Nate.
Yeah, man, no doubt. It'll be in the notes, and we'll put the links, all that in the captions, and whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, you can catch Extraordinary Exchange Podcast on all the major platforms. But truly honored and privileged to have you in this space with us, fam. Looking forward to everything else that you got going on. We got going on, the collaborations that haven't even been talked about yet.
Absolutely.
It's been an honor and privilege to call you a friend, for real.
Yeah, same, man.
And yeah, man, much love, man. Appreciate you. And yeah, anything else you want to get to the people?
Nah, man, just much love. I appreciate if they've made it this far, they're truly champions, and it's just like, it's an absolutely good look, man. So I appreciate everybody that is listening. I love that y'all called me and hit me up, and I'm honored to be on this podcast. I know what you all are doing. I've tried to support. I want to support. I'm in DC, so the next event, Nate, holla at me. I'll be there, brother, without a doubt.
Well, that'll probably, hopefully that'll be November, man. So
okay,
I'll say this, man. You are E.I.G adjacent, brother. We welcome you to our family, our network, man. As we try to grow this mission as big as we can grow. It takes the community, man, and it takes other entrepreneurs, other business owners to help expand community throughout the country. So our and especially if you was in the political realm, so that we can build our political power.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, once we build our political power as a community, we'll be all right as a people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need all that. I thought Case was going, kind of get to them once you start talking about your affiliations early on in your career. But
that's for the next episode. That's the next one. When we get closer to the politics and the election, and we really got to talk to our people and explain to them, what we're voting for, what we're seeing in these candidates, that'll be an exercise for us in order to educate our people. And try to get them to the booths and to get them to the polls, because as of right now, social media doing a job on our folks, bro.
Yeah.
And the numbers, the turnout is going to be, from how I see it, it's going to be 2016 turnout for people who look like us, and that's not a
That conversation on the podcast is going to truly be an extraordinary exchange.
So I love what you did there, bro.
With that being said, man, everybody, we appreciate y'all time. We appreciate y'all listening, and we'll holler at y'all on the next episode. All right,
y'all. Peace out.
Until next time.
All right.